Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day to all. My name is Muhammad Farid Hakimi bin Azman. I am going to tell a story entitled The Cunning Fox and the Stork. In a burrow made by an enormous family of rabbits, there lived a cunning fox. He stayed near the rabbit's home when he was just a youngster, with the simple plan of eating all the rabbits up. One early morning, this busy cunning fox was trotting home with a dead rabbit in his mouth. He saw a big white bird solemnly stalking through the river reeds, on legs that were just like stilts. The fox suddenly burst out laughing. However, as he laughed into the furry coat of the rabbit, the big bird did not hear him. Suddenly, the sly fox planned to play a joke on this absurd bird. So he put the rabbits carefully down and spoke. "Good evening, my dear friend. Have you had good hunting?" "Fair, fair," replied the stork. The bird glanced at the rabbit. He wanted to have a few mouthfuls of it. "Come dine with me this evening," said the cunning fox graciously. "You will see the most excellent dish out of rabbit you ever saw in your life." The stork accepted the invitation politely, and the cunning fox strolled off again with the rabbits happily. When he reached his burrow, he began to plan something for his visitor. All the time, he went on chuckling. "Ha ha ha." At twilight, the stork arrived at the cunning fox's house. As he could not get into the burrow, his host prepared to set the supper in the bracken just outside. He laid the table and put out the plate. He set everything down and invited the stork to begin. The cunning little fox had made a soup out of the rabbit. Poor stork! He stuck his long beak into the soup, but of course he could not eat it. Meanwhile, the cunning fox slapped up plateful after plateful, urging the stork all the time to take his share. When the meal was over, the stork was as hungry as he had been before it began. He hid his disappointment and disgust. "A very excellent dish of rabbit," he said mockingly. "I would like to return your hospitality, but if you will dine with me tomorrow, I will serve you a frog stew. I hope it will be nearly as good." The fox accepted the invitation, for his was rather fond of frogs. Next evening, he brushed his coat, smoothed his whisker, and set out to dine with the stork. He found his host was ready to welcome him at the edge of the reeds. Come in, our little meal is quite ready. I'm sorry I have no plate, but we can eat out of the same dish quite comfortably," said the stork, leading the way. The stork had used a big jar for the delicious frog stew, with a neck as long as his bone. He started eating up from the jar. The smell was quite as appetizing as the smell of the last night's rabbit soup. "Please help yourself," the stork said warmly to his visitor. "You will find that the stew is done to perfection." He stuck his long neck down to the bottom of the jar and brought out a big frog, which he greedily swallowed with the cunning fox looked on. Every time the stork pulled out a frog, he invited the fox to do the same, but the fox could only sit, staring at the jar and trying to hide both of annoyance and hunger. At last, the stork finished up all the frogs, and then, for the first time, he broke into a croaking laugh. "Ah, you frogs," he said. "You decide to make fun of my long neck and beak, but I think I have paid back your practical joke with interest. The cunning fox felt ashamed and returned to his burrow. From that day onward, he never made fun of anyone again. He had learned his lesson from the start. The moral of the story is, do not make fun of others on their outward looks. Remember, that's all. Thank you.